Yeah. Sound test 1 2 1 2.
Imeingia.
I can start calling guys to come up here.
Hey,
How are you? Good, and you?
good, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Good morning and welcome. As you settle in,
I sent it on,
as you settle in, please let me have Engineer Farouk. If you're here, please. Oh, you are here just now, waiting for the signage. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Okay, the same, it's not there, Nigeria is there.
The representative from Ghana for this session.
It's there. Just.
We're having the country progress and experiences. So representative from Ghana, I know you're a number of you here. Who'll be making the presentation? Please join. Oh, there you go. Oh, that was you. Yes. And you are here waiting for the signage as well. Please join us. Seychelles. Very good. Please make your way here. Dear Congo. Yes, please make your way here as well. Mozambique. Great. So everyone is on board. Kindly join us here. We're going to do the signage in a little while. And those who are at the coffee area, if you can hear me, kindly start making your way here. That's a gentleman in glasses. Yes, yes. Okay. Okay, we now have an update on the seating arrangement for the panelists. So you may need to do some musical chairs so early in the morning. Good morning. We are ready to start. Let's take our seats. Thank you. We hope that you had a wonderful evening yesterday and that you sampled beyond the dinner some further Kenyan hospitality. And hopefully today you will make a visit to, if nothing else, a national park, which is right actually in the heart of the city, about 6 kilometers from the CBD. So we had a very engaging session yesterday, lots to learn, lots to share. And we will start the day with yesterday's summary. Anika, if you could kindly come forward and let's have a look at what we discussed yesterday in summary and really what was the outcome of the conversations that we had. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, good to see you again. My name is Annika Berlin. I work at UNEP as a Sustainable Mobility Unit in Rob's team. Very nice to see you here all for the first time. I think what for me the main takeaway was that there's a big consensus. I think I've never been in a room with more agreement on the same topic. Even when we decide to watch a movie, sometimes we have more disagreement. We all decided we wanted to move to 50 BPM or lower. There was no discussion, oh, let's do 100, let's do 150. There was no negotiation on that. I think this is great to see from policymakers, industry, importers, exporters. We all have the same goal and target. We also know how to get there. We need regulation, we need collaboration, we need partnerships. And we have this agreement and we have all the important people in the room to come to this goal. And there's also no pushing away of responsibility. I don't see anyone saying, oh, no, this country should move first, then I'll go, or this region will go first. No, we all agree that all regions have to move at the same time. The same in Africa, the same in Europe. We see how the Netherlands is pushing for agreement between Germany, Belgium, or all the other countries, that there's a combined European approach and an African approach. And I think this is also great to see. We don't have that everywhere and all the time. That we saw the importance of moving on the clean fuel side to also move to clean vehicles, which would be the next big step. We saw the importance of regulating the used vehicle trade, the importance of working together for that as well. And then also that this is all a holistic approach, right? Only with the vehicles or the fuels, we can't get anywhere. For sustainability, we need all forces together. It's also about strengthening our non-motorized transport system, which someone mentioned, the public transport systems, eventually even moving to electric vehicles. So there's many things to do for us. And I think this is a very important first step in a long chain of work that we all have ahead of us. And I think also what was very interesting for me to see that we have the regulation, we saw there's a phased approach, and now we have to work on the implementation side. And it was very encouraging to see how many countries already have implementation strategies and plans in place, also on the sub-regional level. And I think what is now here for us is to share the experiences on this implementation, work together to get there as soon as possible, hopefully by next year. And then also to look at how we can work with private companies, refineries, to ensure that we have a just transition, that nobody's left behind, that we can create skills on the continent, and that we have as much local value as possible. And also we saw it's possible. We have seen how the long work of the Partnership for Clean Vehicles and Fuels has worked to phase out lead. So we see now this is possible if we work together, and I think we can achieve the same for the sulfur. And then also just as a very last word, because there's many more important people on this panel that I want to listen to say that the end goal, as we also heard, is net zero, right? We all have a climate change problem and challenge, and we all need to work together to solve it. And with that, I wish you a very successful day and a pleasure to be here with all of you.
Thank you very much, Anika, and really thank you very much, distinguished guests, for making it easy for us to chat our way forward on the very first day of the meeting yesterday. So today we have different countries making the progress, sharing with us their in-country progress and experiences. And we have at the podium, Nigeria, Ghana, Seychelles, DR Congo, and Mozambique. We will start off the presentation from Nigeria. This will be shared with us by Obugo. I won't say the surname because I didn't practice pronouncing that, who is going to take the place of Engineer Farouk. Let me also just acknowledge the presence of the Nigeria State Minister for Transport, Honorable Ebenezer. If you're here, maybe you can just raise your hand. You've joined us here today. Are you in the room already? Okay, not yet. If I could get a cue when he arrives, then we will certainly acknowledge his presence. So let us kick off with Nigeria, your country progress and experiences. Let's keep it very, very, very brief because then we have discussions that will emanate from this. And I'm waiting for, okay. You ready? Great, yes. Please go ahead. Obugo.
Honorable Ministers and Ministers of States, ladies and gentlemen, please permit me to stand on established protocols. It is my pleasure to address this gathering on this very important topic, which affects not just Nigeria, but other countries in Africa and the world at large. As global energy demand grows alongside our rising population, the production and consumption of fuels is bound to be on the increase. These fuels remain critical to our mobility, electricity generation, and numerous other industrial processes. However, these fuels are organically associated with emissions of carbon and sulfur, amongst other byproducts and wastes, which directly contribute to global warming and serious health conditions. The effects of carbon are being mitigated and addressed by a very coordinated action under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, while the effects of sulfur are being addressed under the coordination of the United Nations Environment Programme. Nigeria is well aligned with these United Nations programs, being a major producer of petroleum, largest economy in Africa, and an aspiring industrialized nation. Current fuel status. Currently, Nigeria has 7 refineries with licenses to operate and a total capacity of 461,000 barrels per day production. 2 other refineries are under pre-commissioning with a combined capacity of 661,000 barrels per day. On a daily basis, the downstream sector of the Nigerian petroleum industry distributes approximately 60 million liters of PMS, 14 million liters of AGO, and 3.7 million liters of kerosene. At the moment, Nigeria enforces NIS 116 year 2006 requirements for PMS, which limits the sulfur content to 1,000 ppm, and NIS 149 year 2006 requirements for AGO, which limit the sulfur content to 3,000 ppm. Adoption of AfriClean fuel targets. In essence, Nigeria currently enforces AfriC1 PMS specification and just a fraction above AfriC2 AGO specification. However, the Nigerian NIS requirements have been updated in the year 2017. The new requirements limit sulfur contents to 150 ppm in PMS and 50 ppm for AGO. These translate to AfriC4 specification for PMS and AfriC5 specification for AGO. The country is yet to commence enforcing the 2017 specifications due to complexities in refining and pricing of petroleum products. The AfriClean fuel target is to attain a maximum of 10 ppm sulfur Afri-6 in both PMS and AGO by the year 2030. From the Nigerian perspective, this target is majorly realizable. From the year 2023 going to year 2030, Nigeria would have 4 sources of PMS and AGO. These are the 650,000 barrels per day Dangote refinery, the 445,000 barrels per day NMPCL refineries, other local refineries, operational, and those with license to establish an ATC with combined capacities of about 1.5 million barrels per day, and importation from external sources. The Dangote refinery is designed to meet the Afri-6 targets and is expected to come on stream in the year 2023. Other local refineries are designed to meet Afri-6 specification. 2 are currently operational with total capacity of 11,000 barrels per day. 3 are expected to come on stream in the year 2023 with total capacity of 13,000 barrels per day, while 36 other refineries with license to establish or approval to construct are expected to come on stream within some years. Nigeria also plans to wind down its subsidy program on PMS by 2023. Subsequently, importations into the country would be expected to comply with the NIS 2017 specifications. The above would entail that 3 of the 4 sources of fuel supply to the country are expected to provide cleaner fuels starting from the year 2023. However, the NMPCL refineries would require significant investments to meet the Afri Clean Fuel targets. Other enablers. The transition to cleaner fuels in Nigeria is supported by the enactment of the Petroleum Industry Act 2021, which established the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA, with clear objectives which include ensuring energy security and sustainability. Accordingly, the country has adopted the usage of natural gas as its transition fuel towards more sustainable energy consumption. The utilization of natural gas would be optimized alongside the reduction of sulfur and carbon in the existing market segment. This transition is coordinated by a strategic Decade of Gas program. Experience. Honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen, Nigeria's experience on the journey to adopting cleaner fuels has been a journey of complexities. On one part, the need to preserve our delicate environment and protect the health of our population is clearly appreciated. On the other part, existing refining capabilities and economic realities compel us to delay the implementation of stricter fuel quality standards. However, the country is committed to meeting its own aspirations on cleaner fuels, which aligns with international and regional roadmaps. Future plans. As we progress towards the 2030 targets, Nigeria plans to, 1, enforce the NIS 2017 requirements on fuels and revise the NIS specifications to demand for lower sulfur contents. 2, facilitate the upgrade of NMPCL refineries to meet cleaner fuel specifications. 3, deploy natural gas as its transition fuel. 4, execute the Decade of Gas program. And 5, complete the deregulation of the downstream petroleum industry. Honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen, Nigeria is on track to achieve the clean fuels targets as articulated by the Afri Clean Fuels Roadmap. This would be achieved in stages as the country fully deregulates its downstream industry and as its current refinery projects and upgrades are completed. The country will still require significant investment in its midstream oil and gas sector to produce sufficient high-quality products. The country remains committed to collaborating with relevant stakeholders as it progresses on this journey and requests for sustained support of all partners. Finally, I would want to conclude by appreciating the coordinated efforts of the UNEP and all the stakeholders gathered in this meeting. Thank you very much.
A round of applause. Thank you very much. Very clear, very concise. That's the case for Nigeria in terms of their progress and their experiences and generally the country situation in terms of the clean fuels agenda. I have this hunch that the Minister for Transport for Nigerian state is now in the house, Ebenezer. Yes, you see, that hunch was correct. Thank you very much for joining us. We acknowledge your presence. Next, we have Ghana, who share their experiences. Thank you very much. We'll just upload your presentation.
Good morning, honorable ministers. I wish to stand on all observed protocol and proceed to share the Ghana experience regarding the Africa Clean Fuels Roadmap. So, looking at the Africa Fuels Roadmap, Ghana has come far in this roadmap if you look at and compare with the original schedule of the Africa specifications. Ghana currently, we have implemented since 2017, not just Africa 4, but in terms of specifications, actually it's Africa 5, as we will show in the slides details. We not only look at the fuels, but we also look at the cars and the emission systems that has to be in tandem with the fuel specifications. So in some respect, where the specifications, particularly the AFRI, do not match with the vehicle emission standards, we tend to go with the specifications that actually would enable the vehicles to be compliant with the emissions standard. So that is what informed most of the decisions of the Ghana specifications since 2017, when we reviewed to the 50 ppm specifications. The Ghana story started very early in somewhere 1990, where we were doing as much as 11,000 ppm for diesel. And in 1990, about 1,500 ppm for gasoline. The key point was in 2017, when after a successful and gradual reduction of fuel sulfur specification, we took that bold step to introduce the 50 ppm specifications. But like I said earlier, the specifications was done holistically to meet Euro 4 emission standards. which beyond the sulfur have other key parameters like aromatics that has to be met in order to be compliant with the sulfur specifications. So in 2017, the introduction of the standard kicked in. But as it has been alluded by a lot of presented yesterday, just a mere introduction of the standard is not the main work. It is how to enforce the standard. So we have a very stringent quality control system that tests at various chain of the supply, starting from importation. For instance, we have 3 refineries in Ghana. The main one, the Temoa refinery, which has about 35,000 barrels per stream day, and 2 small refineries, Akwaba and Platon, a combined of about 7,000. But because of the downtime, they do averagely about 10% of the local supply, with about 90% of our supply coming from imports. So a lot of focus is put on the entry of our fuels. So you see in the table, we have the first 3 quarters of this year to share, where you have the sulfur for the first quarter for PMS 11.3 ppm, quarter 2 about 15.3, and quarter 3 about 18 ppm average. Like I said, we also look at other parameters. For instance, Ghana have permitted the use of ethers in place of alcohol in the Euro 4 or in the Afri 5 specification because of the infrastructure issues. So you see that if you come to ethers, in the quarters, we have from first quarter 6.6 of ethers percentage volume, quarter 2 9.9, and increase to 11.7. As I indicated earlier, we are aware that oxygenates generally tend to improve or reduce emissions of fuel when blended in gasoline. So we permit the use of that. And we also monitor the aromatics. The Ghana specification for aromatics is a maximum of 35% volume. The lesser, the better. So if you look at the figures, we have in the first quarter 22.8, 21, and 19.7 for aromatics. When it comes to the gas oil, we focus most on the sulfur as usual. And you see that in the first quarter, the average sulfur for imports was 10.1 ppm. We also have for quarter 2, 13.2, and quarter 3, 12.8 ppm. So for diesel, the particular attention is on the sulfur, but you see that we also have a very high cetane, which is very good for performance. And the average cetane values for our gas oil is around 51 cetane index. Like I said, we do a testing of the entire value chain. So you have the storage depot testing going on alongside the retail outlet, so that I have to review this slide yesterday when AAAM asked for the testing at retail outlet, because I was trying to save time, but I realized it's important. So I included this yesterday later to give an indication of the testing and the data at the depots and the retail outlets as well. So you see that at the depot, you have the PMS having 20.2, quarter 1, 25.3, quarter 2, and 15 ppm sulfur respectively for quarter 1, 2, 3. So you see that there's a slight difference between the imports and at the depot, because we have the local refineries which are not meeting the 50 ppm. So when you go to the depot, sometimes you see a slight increase in the values compared to the entry point because of the local and the commingling of the products at the depot. If you come to gas oil for the depots, you realize that the sulfur is Quarter 1, 17, quarter 2, 9.5, which is almost ultra low, and quarter 3, 9.8 ppm. Now, at the retail outlet, which is the main point of consumption, you have for PMS, the sulfur we had just the data for the 2022 average being 19.1 ppm. When it comes to the aromatics, you realize that the average for 2022 at the retail outlets is 21.1. Whereas for sulfur for diesel, we have an average volume of 32.9. So you see that whereas the import was around 10, averagely 15, at the retail outlet for gas oil, we have 32.9. This is taking in account of the local production, which currently is hovering around 700 ppm. But because of the low volumes, when you combine with the import, then you tend to have a slightly higher compared to the import, but yet still lower than the 50 ppm at the point of consumption, which is very good for us. Some of the implementation challenges, like I said earlier, we need a very stringent testing and an institutional capacity that should be able to implement effectively the specifications as required. Then we also, as was mentioned yesterday, have the issue of ensuring that the refineries are retuned to be able to meet the 50 ppm. Initial target by AFRI or ARA was 2020, which we gave them to be able to be compliant. They couldn't, so ECOWAS reviewed and gave them another caveat for up to 2025. So the issue, as was mentioned by Anibal yesterday, is how to be able to retool these refineries to be compliant. But we have a new refinery as well coming up in Ghana, which will also do average of about 35 barrels per stream day, which is already compliant with the 50 ppm. So we ensure that all new refineries are compliant with the 50 ppm, and hopefully we want to review it to AFRI 6 for new refineries, which will be 10 ppm, and that is the ideal. Initially, there were some market concerns about policymakers thinking it would have caused significant price increase, which was largely debated yesterday, that the effect in terms of importation is very minimal. And therefore, it also addresses the issue of consumers, which were also, having the fear that the cost to them will also increase significantly. Before the recommendation, one thing we noticed in Ghana was that once the fuel regime was good and the testing was very stringent, we had about 4 vehicle assembly points now set up in Ghana, producing brand new vehicles, and you get now many people shifting to patronize these brand new vehicles because they are assured of the fuel quality. In fact, we also have about 2 emission testing centers, which are also able to test in compliance with the emission standard, and the standard have been set for emissions as well. So we are looking at the entire chain of emission reduction, not just for the fuel specifications. So the recommendations, we think that fuel specification, as I indicated, we should have to be introduced in tandem with emission standards, so that yes, sulfur is the main driver, but we have to understand that other parameters must be compliant for you to be able to meet the emission standards going forward. Then we need to also, some of these recommendations are intended with respect to ECOWAS. We need to engage member states and their implementation agencies to be able to know the challenges, and encourage countries lagging behind to be able to start with some cities. There's a terminology called the California effect, where it is said that most of the stringent specifications emanate from California and the rest will follow. So we believe that some countries lagging behind could use selected cities to start implementing some of these specifications. And infrastructure is also important. For instance, when ECOWAS recommended the use of alcohol in the recent specification, we realized that our infrastructure will not be able to contain alcohol. So there is the need for us to be able to ensure that whatever specifications we are bringing out, we have the, infrastructure ready to be able to do with that. And we need, last but not the least, we need to have a collaboration as we are doing here to be able to ensure our goals. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. A round of applause, and allow me to say well done. Well done, Ghana. So we have the next presenter, Sarah from Seychelles. Thank you.
Honorable ministers, ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all. I'm indeed very pleased to have been invited to attend this two-day meeting to share the country experience of the Seychelles. My name is Sarah Rome, and I'm currently the acting chief executive officer of the Seychelles Petroleum Company. And Seychelles, as you would know, is a small island nation of 115 islands and with a very small population of 100,000 people. Seychelles Petroleum Company is currently the only, well, it's the national oil company. It's the only oil company 100% owned by the government of Seychelles. And we have a mandate of ensuring the domestic energy security of the country, ensuring that our international activities are supported, and to make sure that everybody gets the fuel that they require in the country. We are the owners of 3 petroleum depots in the Seychelles. We own all the petrol stations, but we lease out those petrol stations to private operators. And we're also the proud owners of 5 German-built tankers, 4 of which are medium-range tankers. They are operating in the Baltic area currently between Russian ports and Europe. And we have 1 coastal tanker, which operates in the Seychelles and also serving the region at times. In terms of our activities, we do a lot of distribution in the Seychelles, the domestic industry, household, and we are also heavily involved in international bunkering, in aviation, and also shipping. Seychelles fuel consumption is very small in comparison to most African countries, and even the islands in the Indian Ocean. We are 400,000 metric tons per year. And currently, Total Energies is our supplier, and they've been winning tenders, and they have been supplying the Seychelles for over 20 years now. We are about to go into a tender for supply for the next 2 years. And in terms of improving fuel quality, that has been at the forefront of all our strategies in SEPEC, in Seychelles Petroleum. And we have seen significant strides in improvement in the fuel quality over the past 30 years. Early 90s, we managed to eradicate kerosene as a cooking fuel and replace it 100% with LPG. In terms of leaded fuel, we managed to eliminate the importation of leaded fuel in 2002. However, due to the older cars, some of the older cars in the Seychelles, we still had to import tetraethyl lead, TELB, to dope with our unleaded motor gasoline to allow for those cars that were still in existence. However, in 2011, Seychelles banned TELB, and we had a different fuel additive which had no lead, and that was Valve Master, and that allowed the transition into 100% unleaded motor gasoline then. So right now we are fully unleaded, and there are a few cars that are still using the Valve Master, but we give out the Valve Master in 100 ml bottles, and the drivers can dope their fuel tanks themselves. Our current spec is 110 ppm sulfur. Our octane rating is 95 minimum. We have 0 oxygenates, and manganese is 0, benzene less than 1. And we are trying to negotiate with our supplier to move to 50 ppm as well for more gas. In terms of gas oil, we have seen equal improvements in the quality. Back in 1996 to 2004, we supplied 2 grades. We supplied 10,000 for international bunkering, 10,000 ppm, and 5,000 ppm for the domestic sector. Then between 2004 to 2010, we improved the domestic grade to 500 ppm, but we're still supplying 5,000 to the bunkering sector. 2010 to 2015, we moved to 250 ppm to 500 ppm, and 2016, over the past 6 years, we have 1 single grade, both for the international bunkering and for the domestic sector. However, having said that, all our cargoes over the past years have been 6 to 7 ppm, well under 10 ppm. We haven't changed the specification to allow flexibility for TotalEnergies when they bring the cargo, but we haven't seen ppms over 10 in our cargoes. And when we did change to 50 ppm, as a small country, we were also worried about the price issue. However, in 2016, we did not experience, because the differential between a 50 and a 500 ppm was quite minimal, so it was insignificant for us. However, this year, we note that there is a difference in price. If you were to change, I mean, we've looked at Platts, which is our benchmark for gas oil for all our products, and we see that between 50 and 10 ppm, there's a $6 to $7 per metric ton in terms of the pricing. And if you are at a higher ppm at 2,500, we see up to $55 per metric ton price differential. And that has only been this year when the prices of gas oil and the volatility of the products have been very, very, very high in the market this year. Whilst we have made improvements, we still have some challenges in Seychelles. First of all, we are not, one of the key challenges, we are not measuring the fuel emissions, the exhaust emissions, and this is something that the Ministry of Environment is going to be taking up over the next 2 years. Another of our key challenge is in the specification of fuel oil. I know this meeting is talking about vehicles, but fuel oil, heavy fuel oil, is used by our power plants to generate electricity. And right now, we are proud to say we are using 50 less than 10 ppm for our gas oil, but our fuel oil specs is still at 3.5% max, which makes it at 35,000 ppm, and that's significant emissions as well. And if we want to look at reducing the emissions, again, we are hit by the price differential. Right now, for fuel oil, if you were to look at a 0.5 and a 3.5, the differential can be anything between $100 to $200. We bring in the product that the utilities company would use to produce electricity. And they have been reluctant to make that move because of the price difference, because at the end of the day, it would be the consumers who would have to pay the cost. So these things are still concerning to us. They would affect emissions and they would affect the air quality. And they are things that we have to bear in mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Very comprehensive presentation there from Seychelles. All right, next is DR Congo. Curtis, thank you very much. We'll just upload your presentation as well.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me add my voice to thank the organizers of this meeting, the UNEP, and especially the government of the Netherlands for the work put together to get us here to exchange about cleaner fuels. My name is Augustine Kuba. I'm the Chief of Staff at the Ministry of Hydrocarbons in the DRC. And I'm representing here our Minister, His Excellency Didier Budimbu, who could make it to attend to other emergencies. So I'll be going through the fuel logistics in the DRC, and then I'll talk about the subject of the day, which is cleaner fuels. So to start with, as far as protecting the environment, fighting global warming, and preserving planet Earth, the Democratic Republic of the Congo is a solution country. This is because of, thanks to its rainforest, which is the first lung of the world, and its natural carbon traps, which we call in French toubières. As far as clean energy is concerned, the DRC can also be a solution country for Africa with its hydraulic Inga site, which can provide 44,000 megawatts of hydroelectricity power. Just let me mention also that the full capacity of the DRC in terms of hydroelectricity is about 100,000 megawatts, so which is quite huge and can serve all of Africa. But also, most importantly, the DRC has to be a solution country for its people by improving the standard, their living conditions. Therefore, the need to explore and exploit its natural resources, including the huge hydrocarbons potential. Talking about hydrocarbons, I just want to let you know that we launched last July a licensing round for 27 oil blocks and 3 gas blocks. So let's talk a little bit about fuel supply logistics. The DRC had a 16,000 barrel a day refinery, which was built in 1968. It stopped refining crude oil in 1999 and is currently used as a storage facility for fuel imports. Let's talk a little bit about the supply routes. For Western DRC, this is being done from the Atlantic coast via the port of Matadi with a product originating from Lomé in Togo and from Europe. And also we're getting product from the refineries in the Gulf of Guinea. For Southern DRC, the products are being sourced from Dar es Salaam, Beira, that's in Tanzania, Beira in Mozambique, and Durban in South Africa. We fuels originating from the Middle East and Asia. In the past, we used also to get product from the port of Lobito and Benguela in Angola. Just so I want to let you know as well that the DRC is sharing 2,500 kilometers of land border with Angola, and we're getting products into the country at different points of entry. Also for Eastern DRC, the product is coming mainly from Eldoret here in Kenya and transiting through Uganda. So just want to let you know as well that fuels imports, which used to be a monopoly for the state-owned oil company, has been liberalized. Imports were liberalized in 2001. Now, next slide, please. So this is just showing you the country. As you can see, the DRC is a big, huge country, and the arrow shows you where the product is coming from into the country. Next slide. So let's now talk a bit about cleaner fuels. So the DRC is a member state of 3 big regional organizations, namely the SADC, the AIC, and the CEEAC. And as such, we'll go with the highest cleaner fuels standards of all the regions. The DRC is almost landlocked and imports its fuels via its neighboring countries. If these countries do not allow high sulfur fuels to enter their territories, the DRC will have to follow suit and have access to low sulfur content fuels. For the western part of the DRC, the government is in total control and will have to implement the adopted roadmap for cleaner fuels. For the mining companies which are operating mainly in the south, they are getting the fuels from mainly Tanzania, and the fuels are for 50 ppm fuels content. So what is the current situation as far as cleaner fuels are concerned in the DRC? In 2015, the DRC government decided to review all fuel specs and issued a ministerial decree in 2005 specifying the following sulfur contents. For mogas, 200 ppm, which is aligned with AFRI3, and gas oil, 500 ppm, aligned with AFRI3 as well, and FOMI, which is the fuel oil for the internal market, which is 20,000 ppm. This is fuel oil from CST 180, which is used for cement plants and other heavy industry. So as you can see, these numbers are relatively high and not in line with current trends. Now, so the current situation still, in 2016, the DRC attended the SADC workshop organized in South Africa to help member states implement cleaner fuels policies. I think yesterday we had a presentation from SADC representative, and I think one of the major goals is that by for the Horizon 2025, 2030, we have to go to 10 ppm fuels content for all the fuels. So in October 2020, the DRC government organized with the financial and technical support of the UNEP a big workshop involving several ministries to come up with a national roadmap for cleaner fuels. The roadmap was issued in October 2020, adopted and validated with an implementation timetable, timeline of 6 months. This roadmap adopted 50 ppm as the maximum sulfur content for mogas and gas oil. So the roadmap, as we speak, the roadmap needs to be resurrected and implemented as soon as possible. So in conclusion, I just want to mention that as a full member of 3 big regional organizations, the DRC will eventually adopt the cleaner fuel specs from the organization with the highest standards. This will not happen overnight, but there is the political will to speed up the process. So cleaner fuels is everyone's business. It concerns the governments, the international oil companies, the traders, the marketers, the civil society, and the international organizations. There's a need to work together hand in hand with a clear roadmap to attain agreed upon goals. Wish to thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very, very much. Last but not least, we have the presentation from Mozambique, which we're going to upload shortly. And just to inform you, distinguished guests, that we will have all the presentations and the recommendations uploaded on the UNEP website, and the link will be shared with all participants. So don't get so stressed out taking notes. All these will be uploaded on the UNEP website. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning, Your Excellency, Minister and Ambassador, all protocol observed. My name is Mwai. I am a Deputy National Director of Hydrocarbon and Fuels. I came in representations of the Minister of Resources and Energy. I will briefly give the current picture of the downstream petroleum subset in Mozambique. Mozambique is located in Southern Africa region. With access to open sea, in this case, Indian Oceans. Because of this geostrategic locations, Mozambique supply fuels through its storage facilities for most of landlocked countries in the region, such as Zambia, Eswatini, Mozambique, RDC, Malawi, Botswana, and some areas of South Africa without access to open sea. The country imports all the petroleum products because since its refinery was shut down in 1980s, from now until now we import all petrol products. In terms of the storage capacity of about 1.2 million of cubic meters, more than 70% plus is allocated for the transit by neighboring countries. In terms of the size of the domestic market, in terms of the consumptions, of about 1.7 million of cubic meters. In order to run its storage facilities in easier way, and the support of UNEP, Mozambique hosted in 2017 regional meeting to harmonize its fuel standards with neighbor countries. As a result of this effort, in 2018, Mozambique approved and published in Government Gazette new fuel standards, moving from 500 ppm sulfur to 50 ppm. Also in gasoline, we move from around 93 to 95. Even gasoline, we reduce the level of sulfur to 50 ppm. This is good because we don't need to segregate our depot. All product, domestic and transit products, we store in same depot. In 2017, we also create the energy regulator with the responsibility of regulating the pump fuel price. The fuel price in terms of the legislations is adjusting on a monthly basis whenever its variation is above 3%. The fuel price is adjusting, as I mentioned, in monthly basis. Since July of this year, we didn't, the regulator does not update the price because the government decided to reduce the fuel tax more than 90% for diesel and more than 50% for gasoline in order to stabilize the price, the pump price. In terms of as I mentioned before, because of our strategic locations, we store the petrol products of most of the neighbor countries. Each country in the regions has its own procurement process for fuel bulk supply. Mozambique, in case of Mozambique, signed an agreement with the Botswana in order to allow in order to allow the both or national oil, national oil company to import jointly with petroleum products. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Distinguished guests, what we would like to do now is to have questions specific to the presentations that have been made, because then we will still go into further discussion, but can we keep the questions specific to what has been presented today? We keep them as questions. Questions meaning we'll end with a question mark to the specific countries that have made their presentations, so that then we leave anything else for the discussions that we'll have after this session. So as we did yesterday, if you do have a question, please raise your hand. I will call you out, introduce yourself and the country that you are representing. So any takers? Oh, great. Fantastic. Right from the panelists. Yes, go ahead. It's from, yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Ubaidallah Said from Ghana. Yesterday, I think the presentation from the East African bloc, they made mention of the challenges with testing. And I wanted to ask, in view of that limitation, what is the level of compliance with respect to the specifications?
Thank you. Can turn off your mic. Thank you. So I will call on Stella to give her response. Stella, I don't know if you want to come up here or make it your response from there. And after you've made your response, I perhaps can make a very brief response if you will not have covered it. Over to you, Stella.
Yeah, thank you and good morning, everybody. What I can say, the level of compliance is high as far as the main parameter we are looking at, the sulfur. In the ESA, I could say that all the partner states, there is compliance to that parameter, because that parameter we are able to monitor it, we are able to test it. And I did even say, as much as we agreed on the 50 ppm, the level from the monitoring, from the testing is around 10 and sometimes even below 10. When I talked of the testing capacity, it is for some other parameters which are critical for performance within the standard. But in terms of the sulfur, we are able to monitor it. Thank you.
Thank you, Stella. And just to add, and perhaps the same can come from Uganda, Dr. Bananga, I think you may want to make a comment. But for Kenya, and as you saw, the products are imported through the open tender system. And because of that, then it's very easy to have that product come in with the parameters that are dictated as per the specifications, number one. Number two, they come through the Kenya pipeline. And within the Kenya pipeline, they actually are very stringent in terms of the tests that are carried out, all the parameters. And this is the same product that is then exported to other partner states within the EAC. We also have in-country a fuel marking program. And this is done randomly by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority. It's done at the gas stations. And as I said, it's countrywide, randomly done. And it not only tests because now obviously the specifications have been, but it also tests for other quality requirements to ensure that then there is no adulteration that's taking place and that there is no tax evasion as well. So no dumping of product as well. Dr. Bananga, I don't know if you want to add anything to this particular question.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. Yeah, you've well put
the system from the Kenyan through the open tender system, and then the product flows through the pipeline, and from the pipeline, that's how we pick it, and then it is distributed, transported to Uganda and beyond. So there you have the product on spec, on standard. Now, you have slight challenges when it goes to the distribution points, the retail stations, because that's where you have some small incentives for players to do some low-level adulteration. Now, we have established a testing lab at the ministry together with the Bureau of Standards. So we operated together. So the quality marking system that we mark all the products coming in, we know what we received, and then we go further and check at every retail station randomly, both convert and combat. So you don't know when the mobile laboratory will arrive at your retail station. And we have increased the vigilance that now the compliance rate is about 96%. So a few small players who try to do adulteration, over time they have realized that's not possible. We have a good working relationship with the oil companies. So the marketeers themselves, they monitor their stations because they don't want their station to be the ones labeled that they are not conforming to the standard or they are doing malpractice of adulteration. Because when we find you, the retail stations, we publish in the newspapers which station, where, what was the, which product was off standard. And a retail station, we close it, even that information is published. And to get back your operating license is not easy. So because of that stringent measure, the compliance rate has gone up and our products are on very good standard. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bananga. And as it is for Kenya as well, there's publishing on a quarterly basis, and you can imagine what kind of damage that can do to the brand. So very important compliance levels, but also in terms of the regulation, if you do not comply with the standard, the penalties are so high and they include a jail term in Kenya. I mean, you must comply with the specifications, and that is enshrined in the regulation. And as I said, the penalties are very high. They include a jail term, and therefore they are a deterrent for anyone who would dare to play around with non-compliance. Any other question? Yes, sure. From Southern Africa. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, moderator. And I am from SADC, Moses is my name. I hear the presentation by the countries, the representative from the countries who are the operators at national level. We at regional economic communities, in the case of SADC, we are not on the ground. Even if you can have the policies in place, the standards in place, but for their enforcement and the implementation is undertaken at national level. So from the panelists that there I may be biased towards those who are members of SADC from DRC, Seychelles, Mozambique. In terms of the agreements or the resolutions that were taken by ministers of energy and petroleum, of course, at SADC level, how best are they going to ensure that these are adhered to? The targets was 2022, but now we are already thinking about it to taking to 2024, 2025. How best the countries are they going to ensure adherence to this agreement? In the case of SADC, for information, decisions of SADC are mandatory, but at the same time, the sovereignty element in terms of member states, it still prevails when it comes to the treaty. In as much as they are agreed at the regional level, but if each and every country has its own sovereignty. So there are certain issues that cannot be enforced by the regs at national level. So how best can they help the regs or the region to move to the targets that were set in the past? Thank you.
So I will give a minute each to the countries. I know DRC and Ghana have already implied the political will, and in fact, Ghana has demonstrated as much, but I will not hold brief for you. So starting from my extreme right, actually start with Ghana. Please go ahead. 1 minute. Oh, left. Yes, indeed. Left, extreme left. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. I think we all know what to do. It's just about whether we want to do it. It starts with the political will to be able to implement these targets that we have set for ourselves. One recommendation I want to make strongly is that yesterday, my deputy CEO made the point that when it comes to import, we have to insist that it meets. The concession should be for local productions or local refineries. But for imports, I think that all the continent or the sub-regions have to insist that products coming outside the country must meet the, 50 ppm or if not better, say that our concentration will then be how to bring on board the local production to meet. So that is my point. Thank you.
We're just going to follow suit. Mozambique, please.
The point, please.
It's basically how are you as countries complying with the regional bloc directives? Because then as a country, you have your sovereign, can I say rights to comply, not comply with the targets, but what are you doing to support whatever has been issued as a directive for the bloc?
For different methods or just for?
Specifically for cleanup fuels. Yes.
Okay, thank you. As I mentioned in my presentations, because of our geostrategic location, we have storage facilities, which from that we serve all some part of the regions. I think when other countries like to use our will use our storage facilities, it's good for the regions because they reduce even the cost. If any regions use its own specifications, it's supposed to get itself its own storage facilities or depot, and then in terms of the cost, we'll have the high price. That's why I mentioned that we host the meeting in 2017 in order to harmonize these specifications. We don't have other way because the storage is the same. We use the same facilities. If you don't join to this agreement, to this to join to other member states, to other countries, you will face difficult to import, even to transfer your products. And then it's not a matter to say comply with this. If you don't comply, you will face difficulty to I think it's yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely, the unintended consequence. Yeah. So then we have DRC. You can put on your microphone. Thank you.
Okay. Like I said it in my presentation, I think there are two things that needs to be done. The first one is just implement the national roadmap, which was issued in 2020, and specifying that we need to have only 50 ppm fuel sulfur content in the country. But again, if we do that, then at least from the portion that we control, which is the western part of the country, we can get the traders to come in with product respecting that specification. But for the rest, we're relying on other countries, mainly here in Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique, and South Africa. And we will go, we can just impose the specs, not being sure to get products from coming through the neighboring countries. So, but I understand that most of the countries in SADC and East Africa, they are ahead of us in terms of implementing the cleaner fuel specifications. So we need just to implement the national roadmap, and then we'll be able to catch up on others. So the roadmap has got a timeline of 6 months, and hopefully maybe sometime next year we should be able to implement these the roadmap. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the question. And I believe that Seychelles, as a small country and being the sole supplier in the Seychelles, we are complying with the regional specifications. And by next year, we hope to be able to reduce our sulfur content in our unleaded motor gasoline to even lower, to 50 ppm. And we are working very closely with the ministries of environment and climate change to ensure that we have those regulations and that these are incorporated in the local laws. Right now, no fuel regulations is incorporated in the local laws, and this is our next step in doing so. Thank you.
Well, last but not least, Ghana. Nigeria.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. For Nigeria, the year 2023, it's a very critical timeline for us. From the presentation made, we're assured that a number of the new refineries with the standard set will be operationalized by 2023, as well as the deregulation of the PMS segment of the market, and with that will come with the implementation of the 2017 standards as well, when we open the market to everybody. So again, being a large population, a large country with substantial volumes, we have to deliberately walk through all the complexities that these portend. And we're very hopeful that 2023 presents a very, very positive and optimistic picture for Nigeria in terms of implementation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think we have beaten that horse dead. Any other question? Yes.
I'm Medhat Youssef from Sidari. It's a Center of Environment and Development for Arab region and Europe. My question for the whole African countries whose produce 50 ppm diesel fuel. All the unit you have, it's accompanied with amine blend and sulfur recovery unit. Especially my question for Nigeria and Ghana.
Please repeat the question to Nigeria and Ghana.
The hydrodesulfurizer unit you have to make your 50 ppm diesel fuel. All the unit you have, it's accompanied by amine blend and sulfur recovery unit, or it's just desulfurizer unit?
Okay, so I think the question is clear. So Ghana, go first.
Because I will explain something very important.
Yeah.
In Egypt, our problem, we don't matching with 50 ppm except through a deep conversion refinery. We have in Egypt now 3 deep conversion refineries, but we have another 5 refinery. It's considering simple refinery and conversion one, which we can't matching the 50 ppm. That's the reason why Egypt don't matching with the 50 ppm as a whole. Otherwise, and we must look. And next year, I think we will going to self-satisfaction for the whole petroleum product. That's huge, of course, that's huge investment to do it. But after that, we can't reach the 50 ppm pattern.
Okay.
The reason, of course, it's very expensive. And we can matching the financing we need to reach the 50 ppm through desulfurizing plant, accompanied by amine plant and sulfur recovery unit.
Okay, let's first hear then the response before we follow up with a question to you. The response from, yes, please go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to even add a point on the earlier point before I come to his question. In fact, there's a link. His question is about the desulfurizing unit, whether it's hydrotreating or whatever, whether we have that one in Ghana. There is a school of thought in Ghana that believes that comparing a desulfurizing unit, in fact, it was estimated in 2010 for the Temora refinery to cost $120 million. Whether you should not rather be setting up a new plant, which will give you more efficiency and yet meet the sulfur specification. That has not been done yet. It's still being considered to see whether which direction is efficient. But the earlier point I wanted to make was that in enforcing these standards, testing become critical. When the MPA enforced our quality testing, we realized that the local refineries were doing somewhere 6,000 ppm. But because we were able to test and get this ppm, this data, we sat with them. In fact, we gave technical advice to the extent that from 6,000 ppm, they are doing now an average of 700 ppm. So we have been able to reduce the sulfur significantly by blending the crude types and looking at the processes. Yes, the desulfurizer is critical, but as you yourself have indicated at the end of your point, it's highly capital intensive. And if you have a refinery as old as 1962 refinery technology, whether you will want to do that huge investment in a desulfurizer. That is why we still haven't had these things to be undertaken. Thank you.
Very good. Nigeria?
So Nigerian production, it's disaggregated. You have the new refineries that are coming on stream and which would have the technology for these to meet the sulfur standards. Where the challenge is with the old NMPC refineries. And quite a lot has been said here yesterday in terms of the necessary investments that are needed to upgrade some of these refineries, whether in terms of the sulfurizers you've raised. And this is one of the issues, the outlooks that we have moving forward, how to enable NMPCL to make that investment in upgrading those. So that's part of the outlook for Nigeria. But given that those refineries are undergoing turnaround maintenance now, 100% of our consumption are import-based. So the refineries until 2023 will not kick in back again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, please go ahead. On the same point? Or a different question? Different question?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Go ahead. I'm hoping that we have answered your question. You're good. Okay, good. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's more like a comment. Tim goes from Eswatini. It's quite a challenge to go as far low, like us, Eswatini, we are already at 50. We are not allowed to import 500. It's only 50 going down to 10. We would love to come to 10 ppm in terms of the diesel, but the problem is if you don't have your own refinery that you have set up those standards, you come to the market and you don't find the product. So we would want to go to 10, but the problem is a product availability. It is not there. So that's the comment that I wanted to put up, that for some of us, we would want to go cleaner than where we are, but we are faced with the challenge of the product unavailability. Thank you.
I'm struggling with product availability. Is anyone else struggling with the same? At 10 ppm. Seychelles has a comment to make. Please go ahead, Sarah.
In fact, our supplier, our Total Energies, I mean, they've told us that actually 10 ppm is now so easier, much easier to get than other products. But that's probably in the region, in the Indian Ocean region. They're supplying Mayotte, Seychelles, and also some other countries. And are you relating it to the price? Maybe it's the affordability of the product, or are you talking about availability?
No, I was talking to the products, availability of the products. But we know, of course, because it was the same story at the point with 50 ppm, it was not that available, but now it's in abundance. So we know that even with the 10, after some time, the market will be flooded. It will not be an issue. Yeah.
Okay, any response to product availability, or we're done? It was a comment, but some form of a cry for help, I think. Okay, any other question? Yes, certainly. Go ahead.
Good morning. I'm Mama Keita from UNECA, United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. Thank you to all the great panelists. My question is to Nigeria and maybe the others as well, and the regional economic communities. Nigeria, in your presentation, you mentioned that in your plan or effort towards a cleaner fuel agenda and energy agenda, you are transitioning to, you envisage to transition towards gas, I think, at by the horizon of 2030. My question is this being coordinated with other African countries through REX or through the African Union? I mean, this transition, Africa energy transition, this is what I want to understand. Thank you.
Okay, so Nigeria has had in the last few years a declaration, presidential declaration, to transition to the renewables with gas, and there are a number of programs, Decade of Gas program, gas expansion program, that are nationally being put in place to ramp up on gas, and consequently there will be a ramp down as well in the other heavier products. So there's a national coordination of this. I would have to circle back to you to know the extent of collaboration with other African countries in that sense. But as you may well know, we have over 209 TCF gas reserve, proven reserve, and Nigeria is taking deliberate steps to optimize that reserve in the shortest possible period. And that's a national goal we've set for ourselves. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question going once, twice, thrice? Thank you very much. A round of applause for our panelists. Please stay put. Stay put. Thank you very much. And thank you, audience, for your participation. So we would now like to open the floor, particularly to the ministers from countries who we haven't had an opportunity to listen to. So allow me please to call on the minister from Nigeria to please make some remarks on the subject matter that we are discussing. So you can speak from where you are, or you can come to the podium, whichever you prefer.
Good day, everybody. My name is Honorable Odukale Ebenezer Olufemi. I'm actually the special advisor to the Minister of State for Transport. The moderator, every minister is here present. I bring warm greetings from my boss, the Minister of State for Transport. The Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency has hosted stakeholders awareness campaign and a global one at that at 0.5 sulfur cap implementation deadline as of 1st January 2020. I'd like you to know also that the Ministry of Transport, under the present administration of our President Muhammadu Buhari, is doing a lot to ensure that global emission is reduced and equally almost eradicated in Nigeria. NIMASA engaged the modular refinery operations to ensure compliant fuel oil available in Nigeria to be used on board. Furthermore, the Nigerian Environmental Standards and Regulation Enforcement Agency, NASRA, which was established in 2006 for effective enforcement and environmental laws, regulations, and standards, are doing so much to enforce all environment laws, rules, policies, regulations, standards, and guidelines are better enforced. The Ministry of Transport, in compliance with the Paris Agreement and on climate change, is equally developing a non-motorized transport policy in conjunction with the United Nations Environment Program to reduce carbon emission in the country. As a matter of fact, the Ministry of Transportation is also partnering with every other stakeholders as regards making sure that the country goes green, Nigeria goes green. We're doing a lot with other private stakeholders, both within and outside the country, to ensure that this program subsists and is better utilized in Nigeria. On behalf of the Minister of State for Transport, Honorable Prince Ademola Adegore, I bring you warm greetings and congratulations on this program. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Going clean and green. Eswatini, you can come over to or you can, sure, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me appreciate the United Nations Environment Program, UNEP, together with the good friends of Africa, the government of the Netherlands, for helping Africa in various projects, including access to clean water and now cleaner fuels for the betterment of the lives of the African populace. The fuel supply situation in Eswatini is such that the country has no refinery. Hence, we import all our fuel products from neighboring countries and international markets. This dependency situation exposes the country to fuel price volatility and fuel supply disruptions, amongst other factors. On the Cleaner Fuels Program, Eswatini banned the importation of lead replacement petrol and is using unleaded petrol 95. We have moved from 500 parts per million sulfur diesel to 50 parts per million diesel countrywide, and we are moving slowly to 10 parts per million diesel. Eswatini has developed a national biofuels development strategy and action plan. The biofuel strategy recommended bioethanol, where ethanol will be blended into unleaded petrol, and the feedstock will be from sugarcane molasses. The molasses feedstock was chosen because it does not compete with food security, and sugarcane is produced in Eswatini. We have undertaken a 10% ethanol blended pilot study, partnering with the sugar company, Royal Eswatini Sugar Corporation. And to date, Eswatini has undertaken the following activities on the ethanol blending project: established a fuels testing laboratory and constructed a vehicle performance and emission testing facility. 2, enacted a Petroleum Act to encourage buy-in by the private sector, and developed national standard for unleaded petrol, denatured ethanol, and 10% blended petrol. Mandated the National Petroleum Company to establish the country's strategic oil reserve facility and undertake the blending of the fuel with ethanol. The country is currently working on bioethanol regulations and pricing methodology for the blended fuel. Eswatini has further made commitments through its nationally determined contribution to make improvements in energy efficiency for the transport sector through introducing the 10% ethanol blend, exploring means of the feasibility and viability of biodiesel and electric cars. I look forward to fruitful deliberations in this very vital meeting, Madam Chair, and to learn from colleagues in the region on how to best develop clean fuels in our lovely continent. Madam Chair, my name is Jablan Mabuza, the Minister for Natural Resources and Energy in the Kingdom of Eswatini. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. A round of applause indeed. We are all in the right place because we are sharing experiences so that then we can tap into each other's strengths and make sure that we are able to then walk through the targets and meeting them with ease as best as we can per country. The ministers from Zimbabwe and Gambia, if you have anything to add, I know you participated very actively yesterday. No, from the Gambia, anything from Zimbabwe, please? Over to you.
Oh, thank you. Not much really to add on to what, sorry.
No, I mean the microphone.
Oh, the mic, okay. I thought it's because I'm covering my mouth. Not much really to add on to what I presented yesterday. Except for that, here in Zimbabwe, we do grow some sugarcane in the southern part of the country, from where we get the ethanol to do the blending for our petrol. And currently we are at E20. At times we go down to E10 because our storage facilities for the ethanol, they are about 90% to be completed and they are under construction. So once they are done, then we can continue to supply to have the much needed ethanol. Otherwise, in Zimbabwe, we don't have any other challenges at the moment. Our fuel supply is sufficient for our needs. Like I said, we do get our fuel from through the Beira tanks, where the ships dock and then offload the fuel, the diesel and the petrol and the Jet A1, which comes through the pipeline up to Harare, from where we distribute the products to within Zimbabwe and even abroad, outside Zimbabwe, our neighboring countries. But otherwise, we are in compliance with the requirements as discussed in this meeting, and we're really working flat out that we go clean. We go clean throughout the whole country, and we are also encouraging the e-vehicles in the country. Otherwise, there's nothing much to add. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much indeed. A round of applause, please. We have the ambassador from Côte d'Ivoire. Kindly.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Thank you for organizing this discussion. I do not come from the Ministry of Energy, so I do not have any technical presentation to give. I'd just like to make a few comments. Côte d'Ivoire has one refinery, and we are trying to reduce sulfur levels and reduce the levels to 50 ppm as indicated by the ECOWAS directive. ECOWAS has been working with the Côte d'Ivoire government to ensure that the refinery will meet the deadline of 2025 to stop the use of sulfur. Côte d'Ivoire has been working closely with the African Refineries Association, as was mentioned yesterday by the representative. And we have included the use of technologies and are looking for the necessary funding. I'd like to go back to the refinery. We have a capacity of production that is higher than the national need, so we export the surplus. The imports of other fuel products is destined for countries in the hinterland. Côte d'Ivoire is trying to ensure that the specifications set are complied with. When the products come through the ports and go to the hinterland, we need to try to ensure that there's no mixing or blending that takes place in the territory. We are trying to ensure that there are adequate controls. When you talk about fuels, you have to talk about vehicles and used vehicles, as well as the ECOWAS directive on the age of those used vehicles. We started by prohibiting cars that are 7 years old, and now we have gone down to 5 years. But when we talk about fuels, we have a big maritime border, and within ECOWAS, you have a free movement of goods and persons. There's so many imported cars coming in. So that is the situation of Côte d'Ivoire, but Côte d'Ivoire is committed to implementing the ECOWAS directive. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you very much. A round of applause. Thank you very much indeed. Ambassador from Belgium, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I frankly, I discovered this topic when having been invited to this meeting, and for me, it just goes to show how much important work UNEP does under the radar, and it's quite surprising, I have to say, what kind of issues come up and are prone to international cooperation. I'm very happy to see that UNEP is doing this work, and I'm very happy to be able to say that within a European context and a Northwestern European context, and especially in the Benelux, where we have quite a role to play on these issues of exporting fuels and vehicles, that this collaboration can only get stronger. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Indeed, collaboration, partnership enables us to get further, like-minded partners particularly. We have Sierra Leone. I cannot locate you.
Yes.
Yes, please. This is your chance to make a submission.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. What I would like to say here is perhaps it's a question. Based on the last speaker, and speaking of collaboration, there are countries in Africa that are clearly ahead of other countries, particularly in terms of technology used in conducting testing for petroleum products entering their countries. But also there are countries that lack these facilities in testing the petroleum product imported in and within their countries. My concern here is what are these countries, including UNEP, doing or plan to do to assist these countries that lack these basic testing facilities, laboratories within the countries. Because we have the issue, actually I come from the Environmental Protection Agency. It was a complaint from NP that distributors within the country are contaminating the product while moving from one state to another. And the issue was brought to the attention of the agency and what will be the way forward. We found it difficult to solve the problem because even the product that was alleged to be contaminated had not been even tested to confirm that. So that's my concern moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. I think we will answer your question before we call on the next country representative. And I just want to find out which IOC would like to answer that question. In fact, what a good opportunity. We haven't had anything from the IOCs in the last 1.25 days. I sent an emissary. This is what we do in Africa, by the way. We don't go ourselves. We send emissaries, just don't shoot the messenger. Okay, any white smoke there? Consultation. Okay, go for it. Please go ahead, just put on your mic and answer the question. Further consultations. Denny?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. And I'll perhaps just say a few words on behalf of IPICA and our members. So I think IPICA are very proud to support the partnership for clean fuels and vehicles. We're very proud of the progress that has been made by the PCFE and our members and the countries involved to eliminate lead. I think we're very pleased with the progress made to drive desulfurization of fuel globally and to see that demonstrated in the meeting this week. We really welcome the collaboration amongst members in sharing their perspectives at this meeting, both in their learnings on how they've driven progress and in some of the challenges that remain ahead. IPICA and our members really stand ready to continue to support the Partnership for Clean Fuels and Vehicles in sharing our technical expertise, developing and continuing to share and progress the development of best practice. And we look forward to continuing to do that with our members and the UNEP Secretariat going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And indeed, actually to Sierra Leone, and this is what partnerships are about. The expertise, surely, and I can confirm that because I do work with the Secretariat of an Industry Association, the expertise resides within the Industry Association, particularly on cross-cutting issues. And that's such a good home to tap and reach out for whatever is required on this subject matter, including advisory on the kind of resources that will be required to ensure that then product quality is maintained through technology such as what is availed in testing, because it's not, it's available across the different companies that then subscribe to the industry associations. Thank you very much, IPICA. Central Africa Republic, I know you spoke briefly yesterday. Might you have something to add to the discourse, please? Let me see, where are you? Are you in the room? No. Okay. Namibia? Go ahead.
Okay, good morning. My name is Louise from Namibia. I would probably just like to thank UNEP and the government of Netherlands for this great initiative. From my end, I think the SADC presenter did us justice yesterday with his presentation. So I have no much to add. Namibia has no refineries at the moment. We import all our fuel products, and I should say that we've done well with regards to transitioning to cleaner fuels. It's not a concern. We must have been probably also ahead of many of our friends with regards to transitioning. What we need to focus more attention on currently, probably as a country, is on vehicle standards. That needs a bit of work, and that's a message I should take back to Namibia going forward. The challenges we have as a country is we are confronted with smuggling of illegal fuels from Angola, which we have picked up that they are most of the times not in line with the specs that are allowed in Namibia. So that's the only challenge that needs attention right now, in addition to the vehicle standards. And on that, I think I was just listening to the to the colleagues from Kenya, and I thought I should have an offline discussion regarding that, because they have mentioned that they conduct testing at retail sites. We have also recently procured a mobile testing lab, which we have not started using yet. So I thought I should maybe have an offline discussion with the Kenyan colleagues to understand the parameters that are being tested by their mobile lab, maybe so we can probably roll out a similar initiative. And also, I heard also, I think it was the Kenyan colleagues as well, that they are contacting or that they are doing fuel marking at the retail sites. I know also in Namibia, when we have started now experiencing this problem of illegal fuel being smuggled into the country from Angola, we rolled out a study, I think it was in 2017. It was a fuel marking project, but it was more of like proof of concept, where we were marking our fuels, but we were marking the products as they are entering the country. However, this study proven, we ran it for a year. But after a year, it proved it was not solving the problem that we had at hand then. But having heard from Kenya that they're doing fuel marking, maybe also it's an offline discussion that we need to understand how it's being done, because for us, it didn't seem to be solving the problem that we were confronted with then. So I think that's all I can submit from Namibia. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And indeed, we will share experiences, and Uganda is here as well. Djibouti, I know you shared briefly yesterday, but in the form of a question. Any submission you would like to make? Are they in the room today? No, they're not. No submission. Okay, Madagascar, last but not least.
Oui.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you for giving me the floor. Good morning, everybody. In the case of Madagascar, in fact, we would like to thank the presenters for their very rich presentations. The Madagascar case is rather a special one. It resembles to the one of Djibouti, in fact. The country has opted for liberalizing the sector in the year 2000. So we allowed for the private sector to be involved in the supply. So in fact, the state disengaged itself from supplying the products. It is the private sector, with the help and through the private companies that are responsible for the supply chain, namely the import, storage, transport, and distribution. But the control behoves the government, and it is the government also to put in place the standards that are required for the imported products, especially for the products that are distributed throughout the Malagasy territory. Now, during this very important meeting, we have become interested now, especially in how the other countries have managed the public opinion and also the consumers on the management of introducing new standards or for the application of cleaner fuels. As is the case of Mozambique, they adjusted the monthly prices. And in some countries, we learned that this was done through their refineries. So what we are trying to do currently, and what we would like to share with you, is that Madagascar is in the process of developing a draft bill, which is going to take into account all the information that have been shared with us since yesterday, and especially the way the world context is evolving in terms of the standards that are going to be introduced in Madagascar. Currently, now we're talking about for gasoline, we have standards, but we have quite a lot to do as far as diesel is concerned in terms of sulfur content. So this is all the information that we received here is going to be useful for us in introducing various policies that will govern the introduction of cleaner fuels in my country. So we would like to thank you most sincerely for organizing this meeting. And we also thank all the presenters and panelists that have contributed enormously and shared their experience with us. And this has been a great lesson. Thank you for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much appreciate. And a round of applause, because then you've committed to implementing that which you need to in Madagascar. So last, really last but not least, Benin.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. I am Ashil Ajenaya. I am the General Director of Hydrocarbons at the Ministry of Water and Mines. In Benin, we were one of the first countries to comply with the ECOWAS directive. And very, very early, we implemented these new standards, i.e. the new specifications. Today, I would say that the import activities, storage and distribution have been liberalized. The market is operated by private sector, but also by international companies. But we have to recognize the fact that the prices are regulated by the state that has control over the prices. As far as specifications are concerned, currently we are at 10 ppm for gasoline, because what are used, in fact, it is the product, a special product that is being used, and we base our price on it. But we have contacted the local companies as well as the internet companies to comply with these specifications. As far as diesel is concerned, we have 50 ppm because these are the prices that are quoted, which are used as a basis for the price structure. But the major challenge that we are faced with today is the issue of logistics, because 80% or practically 80% of imports that are destined to the hinterland, and these hinterland countries are not necessarily aligned and comply with our specifications with regard to local consumption. So this is a very serious problem for us, which means that the companies that operate today have to do things in such a way so that they can respond to the orders coming from the hinterland. And the second challenge that we are faced with, unfortunately, is smuggling. Smuggling of adulterated petrol coming from Nigeria, which is a huge advantage to the East. It's a great advantage, but at the same time, it is one of the major problems that we have to face with. And today, I'm very happy to hear that by 2023, Nigeria is going to conform to the mentioned specifications, because Nigeria is one of the major drivers in the West African region. And I believe that the compliance to specifications which are close to us will allow the sub-region to improve the quality of the products that are being distributed. And the third major challenge that we have to face, and has already been mentioned by the previous speakers, is the quality control of the products which are actually distributed. It is one thing to implement and say, yes, we have conducted tests for adopting stricter specifications, but at the same time, you need to control the situation. Benin is in the process of doing everything that it can to put in place a quality control laboratory. We have received an initial budget. Studies are still being conducted. For the time being, we are having done this control done by a private laboratory. It is not regularly done. It's only perhaps once every 2 years. And we have to make sure that the specifications that we have introduced are going to be complied with. And I'm speaking on behalf of my minister now. I believe that this meeting that has been organized and the way we have been able to exchange information is going to help us to better improve and review our strategies in terms of implementing new specifications. But at the same time, and by the same token, I was able to personally exchange information with all the other participants here to see how we can truly better cooperate in the future in order to introduce cleaner fuels in the West African region, not to mention the whole of Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. A round of applause also for your commitments. Is there any minister or country representative that would like to make final submissions? Because we would now like to wrap up. Absolutely, from Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Am I being heard? All right. Thank you very much, moderator. I'm from Nigeria. I'm from the Ministry of Petroleum Resources. I will start by thanking UNEP and the Republic of Netherlands for organizing this very important summit at this very high level. In fact, all the speakers here spoke well, and all the regional groups also had very important implementation plan in their regions towards cleaner fuel. We in Nigeria, we are not left behind. In fact, the issue of cleaner fuel is a policy in Nigeria. The government has put in place different policies towards that regard. And despite local actions being taken, Nigeria is not oblivious of its sub-regional and regional obligations towards cleaner fuel. In fact, the PIA, which the previous speaker from Nigeria talked about, that is the Petroleum Industry Act, which has been in the pipeline for some years before it was approved this year, is designed to unbundle the Nigerian oil and gas for better. And some of the provisions of that Petroleum Industry Act is creating very strong institutions, regulatory institutions, to regulate the entire value chain of the oil and gas industry. One of such a regulatory body is the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, which regulates the midstream and downstream activities. As well, another one is the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission. These commissions came on board to regulate the Nigerian oil and gas value chain. Before that, we also have some regulatory bodies in Nigeria that regulate all sectors of the Nigerian economy in terms of environmental issues, as well as other areas of environmental concern. We have also the Nigerian Environmental Regulatory Enforcement Agency. We also have the Standard Organization of Nigeria, all created to bring about cleaner environment in Nigeria. So having said that, I would like to draw the attention of this summit to other areas, especially the issue of emissions that we are talking about. Emissions from vehicles and the standards required to regulate that aspect. There are other also areas that maybe this body has not paid attention, especially in countries that have challenges of electricity. For example, in West Africa, particularly even in Nigeria, we have some challenges in electricity generation and supply. So some businesses that need electricity and homes that need to light their homes resorted to using generators. Those generators also emit toxic fumes. It emits toxic fumes whereby some families have been killed over the years because of running those generators in environment that those generators are not supposed to be operated. So I think the volumes of generators that we have in Nigeria is as much as the volume of vehicles we are talking about. So those emissions are very, very key to this summit. So I would like this summit to look at that direction too, so that those countries that have electricity problems can be well advised on how to take necessary actions to provide the necessary required electricity for us to be able, and then the manufacturers of those generators to the standards that are required for those vehicles, for those emissions, the manufacturers of those of those generators are also very relevant stakeholders in this regard. Another area also I want to talk and borrow leaf from those that talk about enforcement. We will be sitting here all day talking about the regulatory framework of cleaner fuels in Africa as well as the world at large. But then enforcement is very, very important. The other speaker yesterday, His Excellency, the minister from Gambia, talked about bringing on board the African Union. It's very important because some of these countries at this level, because of the regional activities that we are doing, we may not all be keying into this thing. I think bringing in the AU is going to add more bite towards this regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, and quite some food for thought on replicating the success of clean vehicles and fuels to other larger sectors that have an impact on going green. So do we have any non-country representative who would like to make a submission so that we can now go to the wrap-up? Yes, please go ahead.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I am Mama Keita from ECA. Before concluding this very important meeting, first of all, I would like to congratulate my UNEP colleagues for taking this initiative and equally congratulate all the member states who have shared their experience with us. And I would also like to, in the course of this discussion, I would like to also talk about the AfCFTA, the African Free Trade Organization, as you all know, represents a winning ticket for the Africa in terms of contributing to the industrialization of Africa and creating more manufacturing companies. Now, with the establishment of AfCFTA, it is estimated that the manufacturing and industrial sector is going to grow by more than 40%. Intra-regional trade is also going to go up, and this is extremely good for creating jobs and also to promote prosperity in the continent. Now, AfCFTA also offers many opportunities. We conducted a study which estimates that for the real establishment of CA, the continent would require about 2 million lorries more, thousands of train wagons, boats and planes. And all this is in line with the energy consumption, the quality of energy that is going to be used in order to operate all these vehicles. I'm saying all this to the representatives of automobiles room to think of these opportunities, but thinking of these opportunities that they should also bear in mind that there is a need to watch over the quality of energy that is going to be used to run all these vehicles. I would also like to address myself to the Democratic Republic of the Congo that has the initiative of developing the industry of electric vehicle batteries. And also they have to perhaps consider this as a country where it has the solutions in developing this initiative. It's going to improve on the quality of energy that is going to be used for the vehicles throughout the continent. I'm saying this, that we all have to have a holistic approach, and this is why I'm saying in terms of the quality of energy that is going to be used in industries for the establishment of the AfCFTA, which is very dear to us all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as with everything else that has a start, we are now hurtling towards a close. And as you can see, we've been doing quite a bit of consultation here at the podium. Yesterday, we did start off with challenging ourselves to have discussions and conversations that would help us arrive at an outcome that has recommendations which we would then use as the guiding light, if I may say, going forward on cleaner fuels. I would agree with Annika, and I'm sure those that we have shared these platforms with, most of whom we haven't seen each other for the last 4 years. I think I would agree with Annika's observation that there has been such great ease in our arriving at a consensus on the pertinent issues that were discussed yesterday, and also which we have expounded on further today, and which have been fleshed out by the different countries. So I have drawn out a summary of recommendations, and I shared these with the Secretariat in the morning. And as a means of executing my final powers, which I may not be able to execute after this, and not to arm twist or bully my colleagues from the Secretariat, and in recognition that indeed we have been privileged to congregate under the kind organization of UNEP through the Partnership for Clean Fuels and Vehicles, and also the Netherlands government, I would request Rob to please take us through, or at least read through the summary and the recommendations that I've drawn up, and that we also went through in the morning. There's some we have, of course, harmonized a little bit more from the discussions that have taken place this morning. So the representatives from the government of Netherlands, you can exhale. Rob is going to be the culprit for this ambush because he's also sitting right next to me. Thank you, Rob.
These letters are very small, so it's going to be challenging. Okay, there we go. Is it on the screen? Yeah, so at least everybody can read with me when I make some mistakes. Thank you, Wanjiku. So let me read out the chair's summary as it is proposed to this meeting for review. Introduction. Cleaner fuels are a prerequisite for reducing pollutants and climate emissions from vehicles. The Partnership for Clean Fuels and Vehicles has been promoting lead-free petrol and low sulfur fuels simultaneously with the introduction of stricter vehicle emission control technologies since 2002. With the successful elimination of automotive leaded petrol worldwide in 2021, the focus now is on reducing the sulfur levels in petrol and diesel fuels to a maximum of 50 parts per million and below, and a minimum of Euro 4 both diesel and petrol vehicle emission standards globally. The PCV partners agreed in 2006 to support a global shift to low sulfur fuels to a maximum of 50 parts per million. Thank you. In Africa, there has been considerable progress towards lowering sulfur in fuels and limited progress on the adoption of cleaner vehicles. At sub-regional level, the East African community, the Economic Community of West African States, have adopted regionally harmonized low sulfur petrol and diesel fuels and an equivalent Euro 4 vehicle emission standard. The Southern African Development Community sub-region has a ministerial decision for low sulfur diesel to be implemented by 2022. Despite having these adopted harmonized standards at sub-regional level, today only 19 out of the 54 African countries, and those are Morocco, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, Ghana, Benin, Cape Verde, Mauritius, Malawi, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Seychelles, Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, and Zambia, they have achieved 50 ppm in diesel, in some cases also in petrol. Only 2 countries thus far have implemented Euro 4 vehicle emission standards. However, several countries have now moved to intermediate levels as they are moving to 50 ppm sulfur. In the 2-day high-level African Petroleum Ministers meeting was held at the UNEP Headquarters in Nairobi, Kenya on 29 and 30 November 2022. The objective of the high-level meeting was to share experiences, discuss challenges, and identify opportunities for Africa to fully implement cleaner fuels as a first step to be followed by the adoption of cleaner vehicle standards. The meeting was jointly organized by the United Nations Environment Programme, as the Secretariat of the Partnership for Clean Fuels and Vehicles, and the Netherlands government as a founding member of the partnership. 25, it says 22, so we have to find that out. So that's the last count. So it's either 22 or 25 African countries: Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, Namibia, Seychelles, Eswatini, Benin, Liberia, Sierra Leone, the DR Congo, Central African Republic, Madagascar, Chad, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, Cameroon, Mozambique, Malawi, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the Gambia attending today's meeting. Also in attendance were the regional economic bodies, the UN Economic Commission for Africa, ECOWAS, EAC, SADC, and the European Union. Also in attendance was representatives from the Netherlands, Belgium, Portugal, and Sweden. And if we miss somebody, please, this is the time to mention it in a moment. And in attendance were the oil and vehicle industry represented by APICA, the Petroleum Institute for East Africa, Afton Chemicals, British Petroleum, African Refiners and Distributors Association, South African Petrol Industry Association, Shell, Total, the African Association of Automotive Manufacturers. And in attendance were non-governmental organizations represented by SEDARA, Sustainable Transport Africa, ECI, the Environmental Compliance Institute in Kenya, and Clean Air Asia. Those were the introductory remarks. The following are the recommendations from the high-level meeting. 1. All importing countries are urged to adhere to regionally agreed petrol and diesel fuel quality standards. Prepare and adopt national low sulfur petrol and diesel fuel standards in the absence of sub-regional standards, and aim for a target of 1st of July 2023 for the national implementation of 50 ppm petrol and diesel fuel standards. This is for importing. For all refining countries, they will get with existing refineries will be granted waivers to upgrade their facilities and to comply with the 50 ppm petrol and diesel fuel standards in line with the dates adopted already or to be adopted at sub-regional level. Countries that both are importing and refining are urged to import the 50 ppm and below by the date of that 1st July next year, and also are looking at refinery upgrade in line with the sub-regional targets and dates. For the sub-regional economic bodies, we call on them to implement and develop sub-regional standards. ECOWAS and the East African Community to implement the existing sub-regional harmonized low sulfur standard, while the Arab Maghreb Union, the Economic Community of Central African States, and the Southern African Development Community to develop new sub-regional harmonized low sulfur fuel standards. For the regional economic bodies, in particular the African Union Commission and UNECA, to facilitate a continental transition to cleaner fuels of 50 ppm petrol and diesel. For the oil exporting countries, for the oil exporting countries to Africa are urged to export cleaner fuels with a maximum of 50 ppm sulfur, again with the same target date. Oil companies are urged to support that shift to cleaner fuels in line with the targets agreed by the PCFV to provide cleaner, low sulfur fuels to these countries. Vehicle companies are urged to support the shift to cleaner vehicles in line with the targets again agreed by the Partnership for Clean Fuels and Vehicles by providing Euro 4 or better vehicles. African countries are urged to also concurrently implement a minimum of Euro 4 vehicle standards to reduce the emissions of vehicles and improve air quality. Well, I think I'm almost there, right? Okay. Exporting and importing African countries are urged to adopt regulations that will ensure only quality used vehicles are imported into Africa, an issue also widely discussed. The non-governmental organizations and the media have a major role to play by providing information and carrying out public outreach on cleaner fuels and fuels benefits. And to urge African countries to regularly check the quality of the fuel in their countries and to publish the results of those fuel quality checks. We talked about it at multiple points. One but last, African countries are also urged to prepare and implement sustainable transport solutions that also include other modes, such as active and public transport and the electrification of mobility, I think was also discussed and mentioned. Finally, UNEP, as the Secretariat of the Partnership for Clean Fuels and Vehicles, to submit these recommendations of this meeting to all invited participants to this meeting today here and yesterday, and other relevant organizations, and to publish these recommendations on the website of the Partnership for Clean Fuels and Vehicles as hosted by UNEP. Those are the recommendations, I think, yes, of our moderator.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you so much. Sorry, quite a bit. Actually, there's only one little ECI we need to put and Clean Air Africa. Now, any reactions? Is there anything that has not been worded as submitted or that we have not included? I can see Zimbabwe. Please go ahead. First, Zimbabwe, and then we'll go to Nalash.
Okay, thank you, Madam. On the list of participants, I've observed that Zimbabwe is omitted on the list of participating countries.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry about that. The very active one is one that's omitted. How did I? Okay, so apologies. So Zimbabwe.
Okay, to scroll up the recommendations from 7 to 9. Yes, just want to have a photo of that one. Thank you.
Okay, Nailesh.
Thanks very much. Regarding point number 9, I think a point I'd like to make is the concurrent introduction of fuel standards and emission standards. The word that concerns me is the word concurrent. Best practice or practice that we've followed in South Africa is that of Europe, and that emission standards are delayed by a period of time, somewhere between 6 to 12 months after the introduction of the cleaner fuel standard into the market. The reason for this is to allow the complete logistics chain to be cleared of all the high sulfur fuel from the market, so that the vehicles that are introduced into that market are not irreversibly damaged by poor quality fuels. In that way, the vehicle will ensure that it meets its Euro 4 limits for the entire life, which is 100,000 kilometers of the prescribed requirements in the regulation. So if we could please look at that word concurrent. Thank you.
That's noted, and that's on point number 10, not 9. Yes, that's noted. Yes, by all means.
Yesterday, a strong case was made by ARDA, as well as the Kenyan gentleman who spoke from the high table here, regarding the financing, the need to finance the upgrades with the refineries. Again, the recommendations seem to be very silent on that. And from the perspective of a refining country, I think that that would not be very inspirational if nothing is said in relation to that. Thank you.
Okay, that's noted as well. Thank you very much. You know, that is good to have all interests and all ears. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just as a clarity, is there any reason why are the 2 countries not mentioned? If you can scroll up, there is somewhere where you mention all the countries that have achieved the 50 pp, and then you say only 2 countries that are remaining, but you don't name them. Is there any specific reason for that?
For Euro 4 vehicles?
We can mention.
We can mention. That's okay. Actually, that's a good incentive. Absolutely.
And moderator, that's Morocco and Rwanda. So the 2
Yes.
countries, yeah.
Yes, yes. Okay, multitasking here. We start absolutely.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairperson. For the list of attendance, I didn't see Togo, Togo inside. The representative of Togo is here. Togo is a ECOWAS member state. So, and regarding the recommendation, can you put on the screen? The country expressed the need, for capacity building or for the testing. I didn't see it well.
Which number?
The need of capacity building.
Okay, yeah.
For
Okay.
testing.
Okay.
And also the need of technology transfer, or more information on the best available technology to upgrade the refinery. Thank you.
Okay. Stella and then Nailesh again. Stella first.
Yeah, thank you for the recommendation. I just have a proposal for consideration to amend. There is a recommendation of the AU and UNECA to facilitate. I'm just taking it from since yesterday and even today, we have noted that the movement towards cleaner fuels has been a process, and we need to be mindful of that progress, even as AU and UNECA facilitate this process. I just wanted to propose that AU and UNECA do this in collaboration with the REX, so that we are able to build the synergies on how far this process has been going on. I just proposing we amend in collaboration with the REX. Thank you.
Very fair comment, absolutely. Yes, Nailesh.
Sorry, Madam Moderator. In response to my comment, you made reference to point number 10. Could you maybe just go back to that point, please? So point number 10, in my opinion, refers to importation.
I'm sorry, me bad. You know what I have there? So he's reading the refined version of the numbers. Mine is still on the earlier morning one before the session. So I numbered mine a little differently. You're right. You're absolutely right. Thank you.
Okay.
I apologize.
So regarding point number 9, what is your recommendation for point number 9?
No, remove concurrently. Yeah, that's what you propose, right?
Yes.
No, it's my numbering that's a bit different from what Rob was reading out, because as I said, it was recommendation since yesterday and refining up to today. So my numbering is a bit until this morning.
Thank you.
But we remove absolutely concurrently, the word concurrently.
Great, thank you.
Yes, Dr. Bananga.
Thank you, moderator. You know, we have two issues. We have fuels and vehicles. Now, the issue of exporting countries, that is exporting vehicles into Africa, that issue, when you look at number 10, it's only urging the African countries, exporting and importing African countries, to adopt regulation that will ensure quality used vehicles. That's on the regulation side, on the recipient side, or also on the exporting side. But there is an issue of engagement. We understand now there are ongoing discussions in several blocks that need engagement. And those engagements, whereas they can be done at the country level, they can be more effective when done at the continental level. And one of the numbers we have urged the African Union Commission and UNECA on standards of fuel. I would like us that we add a recommendation for them to engage the continental bodies in the other blocks on this aspect, especially of vehicles. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Sorry. Yes, Rob.
I think this refers to discussion we had whereby the European Union is revising its vehicle regulations, and we need to give African input to it yesterday, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
understood. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, isn't this just a wonderful end to what has been 1.5 days of very intense conversations, but with very good recommendations, I would say. Please allow me to hand over the microphone now. No, now formally, truthfully, no bullying. This is just part of, as arranged in the program, to Rob.
I'll be very brief because we all are going to have a nice lunch. But to make some closing remarks, I think we started yesterday with the Deputy Executive Director of UNEP lauding the success that we've made with the lead phase out campaign, but tasking us to do the same thing when it comes to lowering sulfur levels and then also on the vehicle side. And I hope when I have to report back to her later today, I think we lived up to that challenge that she's given to us, and we've made real progress. What I found is that when we take stock of what's happening in Africa, it's massive. There's so many things I learned listening to all the countries, what they're doing, who they are engaging, how they're working together. And that by itself already made this meeting very useful to us. And I think to many of you, because I could hear some saying, I'm going to engage with this, I'm going to listen to, I'm going to reach out to, because so much is happening in the African continent that we may not be aware of. One more reason to do it in a coordinated, harmonized way. And I think that's something we take away also. We've clearly listened to the challenges, which are still there, and they are serious challenges. We listened to multiple countries explaining challenges, technology, financing, harmonization, public opinion, costing issues, etc. And I think some answers were given, but not yet all of them. So there's more work to be done. But I also think we've heard all over the meeting major opportunities to move forward, opportunities to work together, opportunities to work with your brother or sister sitting next to you on addressing these issues. As was said already earlier, I've only heard consensus over the past 2 days, where we need to go, what our target is, and even how we need to go there. So I take away a very positive message of the past 2 days that we can do it. I actually think that next time we'll meet, we'll be celebrating because we will have achieved the target. I'm quite sure about that. We're very close. As I said in the beginning, I think we are now at the end game. If I look at all the plans that are adopted, of all the activities ongoing, I can't tell if it's a month or several months or even a year, but we are in the end game. The majority of African countries is on move and they're not going back. There's only one direction they're going. That's clear to me. So I only want to commit UNEP and the Party for Green Fuels and Vehicles to continue working with all of you, continue facilitating the processes that you are implementing, and to continue to follow up to this meeting with the recommendations as they've been developed by our moderator. I also briefly want to quickly give the floor to the Dutch, because they are co-organizers of this meeting together with us. So I don't know if you have some final words, Alexia?
Yes, thank you, Rob. From the government of the Netherlands, as a co-organizer of this high-level meeting on cleaner fuels, we would like to thank you all for attending and actively joining this meeting. As mentioned by my Minister Viviane Heijnen in her opening remarks, we can and must take joint action and speed up the transition to sustainable mobility. After this meeting, we can conclude that all signs are on green to take a next step. As mentioned before, the direction towards cleaner fuels, specifically the maximum of 50 ppm in petrol and diesel, is agreed upon massively. As an exporting country with main oil ports in Rotterdam and Amsterdam, we will keep on striving for a harmonized approach on cleaner fuels in Europe, within and outside the European Union. We will work actively together with other European countries with main oil ports like Belgium, Norway, and the UK. Also, we work together with the exporting countries in Europe on harmonized regulation on higher quality of used vehicles. Of course, we will do all this in strong connection with you all, the importing countries, the representatives of the sector, the NGOs, and of course, together with Rob's unit at the UNEP. And we think it would be a great thing to follow up on this meeting, perhaps on a UNEA 6 in 24. So I would like to thank you all.
Thank you, Alexia. I think we can give her a round of applause, not only because of your nice words, but also for thanking the Netherlands government for supporting the whole process for 20 years now. So then it's up to me to close. I want to first thank all of you for participating, sometimes flying from far away. I hope this was very useful. For us, it was very useful. So thank you first and foremost for joining us all today here. Secondly, I think you allow me to thank my team. They've been working very hard to organize this, especially Jane. You all know her, but I need to thank the moderator who's done a fantastic job. Again, she helped us many times. And finally, I think we don't see them, but they're struggling to interpret all our difficult terms on PPMs and etc. So the interpreters up there, thank you. And I think with that and having thanked everybody, let's have lunch. Thank you very much. Meeting closed.